Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always, which is a lovely bit of stability in these unstable times, my forever co-host, Kyle, JCRB Kraus.
I am glad to be here. I'm always glad to be here. I do say, yes, it's nice to have a little bit of stability. But, I mean, hanging in there, I think. We're doing okay. I mean, I think. How are you doing?
Well, as this has become an ongoing feature of the program, apparently, I think the fluctuating weather is messing with whatever's going on with my lungs. So I'm a little breathy this episode. I do apologize. But when you go from shorts and t-shirt weather to snow this morning in like a 24-hour period, that's got to be messing with the atmospheric levels and the humidity and whatnot. I'm no meteorologist, but something tells me that can't be good for the old airbags. Yeah, understandably. What about you, sir? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to stay away from people, so nothing really new there. Nothing really.
You mean in the pandemic, right?
Nothing has really changed. No, just in general. Yeah, I mean, I'm a homebody. I don't get out much, so this is just business as usual for me in a sense. But that's okay. I've got plenty of stuff to keep me entertained at home, and I've got the folks in the BumbleKast Discord have been fun to hang out with. We've been having a good time, and whatever else has been going on. Been doing my own show over on my own things, so that's been fun too. So just trying to keep everything going, and hopefully maybe give the people a little bit of entertainment and something to keep them from going stir crazy.
Which, funny enough, is exactly what the topic is today, is about keeping people entertained and how that's going to change in the near future. You know, how are we going to keep it going, and how is it not going to keep going? And this is purely speculative because neither of us are media analysts. We're not experts in anything, really. But, yeah, just talking, spitballing, looking at where we are and what has happened, and see if, maybe throw some darts at the future dartboard and see what lands.
Yeah. I mean, just as a heads up for folks, we are going to be talking about stuff related to the ongoing issues of the world right now. So if you don't necessarily want to hear that sort of discussion, then, hey, you can jump down to the Q&A just down below the video. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can jump forward to that, and we'll see you there. But if you are wanting to listen to some discussion that might be somewhat related, then stick around.
We'll try to keep it light.
Right.
As we've said since the very beginning, this is supposed to be a very relaxed program.
Yeah.
If you want hard-hitting opinions and deep, passionate discussion, there's a million other podcasts. This is just kind of the, hey, I'm going to listen to these guys talk and be nerdy and get my question answered.
And that's kind of why we're talking about
play it on the radio with the kids around. I know that it's safe. That kind of show.
Right. And that's why we're talking about like the media and pop culture side of things rather than, delving into the political ramifications and the economic ramifications and everything of everything going on. There's plenty of other places to do that, and we really don't specialize in any of those topics. So.
Right, and honestly, it can be summed up as Mad Max was a fun movie. Can't wait to live it. Anyway.
Oh, boy.
Can't wait to be shiny and chrome. We'll start a little close to home, I guess, and say, the comic industry, which is especially interesting, and as things started shutting down, there was a very distinct line in the sand where comic shops, by their very nature, could not accommodate You've got, spaces where lots of people mingle, usually browsing for a long period of time. You have lots and lots of paper products, and COVID-19 likes to linger on surfaces for somewhere around a week. So having people come in, mill about, leaf through a book, and put it back is just asking for trouble.
Right.
A number of shops offered curbside delivery, which is great. And if you have a local shop that was doing that and was within a reasonable driving distance, I do hope that you help them out. But all the major publishers, I think everybody, but I can say with certainty all the major publishers went pencils up for at least a month. Different publishers have different policies, but all production stopped, just ground to an immediate halt.
Right. And
there was discussion of how to proceed, and some of them looked at going purely online, with the rationale being that you can still produce and release a product, so you can still earn some income, and within that regard, they could actually kind of survive this. Everybody else is having to board up for a while. They could still function to a degree. So to keep the editors and the in-house staff and the freelancers, paid, and to keep things on schedule, why not go purely online? The other aspect of it was the comic shops, which are pretty much the last bastion for direct sales of comics, are going, you're leaving us high and dry. We can't be open, and if you abandon us, there won't be any reason for people to come back. So the debate very quickly turned into, do you support the brick and mortar shops because they have supported the industry for so long, or do you move on and preserve what you have? And I feel like both approaches have some merit, and I am really not able to settle on one or other myself, because as a freelancer, I'm out of work until things get up and moving again. And even still, once publishers start rolling things out again, it's not going to be everything's back on the table. Because they've lost the revenue and the time, they're going to have to start rolling things out gradually. So the mainline book, Sonic, is definitely going to get up and running first. And the miniseries, Bad Guys, is probably going to take a little longer to get back into production. And since I'm done with the main book for now, and that's on Evan, Evan and the team, they get to move ahead, which is great. I'm very happy for them. But just because things might start moving again for them does not mean it's moving for me, necessarily. If everything were digital, we could possibly be still moving, and I would be okay. But what does that do for the comic shops? And I have been to many, and they've shown a lot of love to me in the past. I feel like a bit of a heel saying, well, I've got mine, too bad for you.
Right.
But this also comes back around to the issue with the industry in general, where sales have been dwindling for decades. Maybe decades is a bit too long. It's been a downward trend in general.
Yeah, I'd say for the last decade.
Books,
yeah.
Top-selling books of today would be cancellation numbers in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
And specialty shops like comic shops need to find ways to diversify and open themselves up. But brick and mortar shops in general are facing trouble just from the online marketplace. And the more you look at it, the more complicated it becomes, the more nuanced, the more caveats. There's no one singular answer. And I get very tired thinking about that. And I go back to thinking about little blue hedgehogs running around in circles. Because I don't have an adult response to this.
That's really a lot of it, is just like, how do we balance out the impact on comic shops versus the impact on publishers? It's like, honestly, though, if it weren't for publishers, comic shops wouldn't have any product to sell. So it seems like the industry should be working towards hopefully saving the publishers But, I mean, the relationships that have been forged between publishers and comic shops and stuff, these are a lot more intertwined and interpersonal and interconnected than the usual kind of distribution of product that you normally get. Like, I mean, the maker of a toilet sold at Home Depot doesn't necessarily have a close relationship with the manager at a local Home Depot. And,
right.
and so it's a very different sort of dynamic there.
Plus, you've got, in your scenario, the toilet seat manufacturer can have their product distributed to Home Depot or Lowe's or Rona or Canadian Tire or Walmart or.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The publishers distribute to the comic shops.
Exactly, yep.
The end.
Pretty much, yeah. Aside from DC at Walmart for limited print run things. But I mean, that's an exception, not a rule.
Right. It's not so much a symbiotic relationship as they're codependent, and
right.
The latter is not particularly healthy.
No.
But, I mean, part of that stems from the issue that comics are seen as a niche market anyway. People think of them as superhero books or children's reading material. And what needs to happen industry-wide, every publisher, everywhere, they need to embrace other formats, they need to embrace other genres, and they need to market it to a larger audience. You have to break the stigma that comics are for nerds and they only do superheroes. They have tried that in the recent past, but it's one of those things where you have to devote a lot of time and money and resources to produce the material in large volumes to garner a readership. You can't hinge it on 6 months of return and it doesn't sell immediately. So you say, oh, that failed. You really have to put some muscle into changing it. You're not just riding the ship, you are rerouting the river. So that's not going to happen unless there is some major money put into it. And with Marvel being backed by Disney and Warner Brothers backing DC, they could do this. You could funnel money into it, but I don't think the mindset of the suits is behind that sort of change. So,
unfortunately, comics are considered a loss leader, and they mainly stick around keep those for the IPs and mine the IPs for other more lucrative ventures like movies and TV.
Right.
So
it also doesn't help that your average 20-page comic will cost you around $4 and $5, where a full album on any streaming service will cost you about the same thing, and you're going to be getting a whole lot more out of it.
True.
All media is fairly expensive, but a lot of the consumable media today is far, far cheaper in terms of time and money spent than comics. So,
yeah.
But then it becomes, where does the money go? Where does that $4 get spent? And the answer is pretty quickly and pretty ineffectively. So I don't know. It's a very large, very complicated issue, and unlike other forms of media, I don't think the current situation is going to force anyone's hand on a brilliant solution. It may just back us into a corner and we continue to limp along. I don't foresee any immediate change from it. Whereas with television and movies, I think we might finally see kind of the final push towards more streaming services, and regular television might finally be on the way out.
Well, we've definitely already started seeing movies move to streaming first rather than going through a theater run, which is angering some theaters in a similar fashion of the way comic shops have been angered by some of the moves that publishers have made.
Absolutely.
So, but at the same time, it's survive or go under. And despite the immense amount of money movies have made overall, like single movies. I know that revenue and how much they make has been going down for a while now. So
part of it is, at least up here, going to a movie, singular movie, so about, say, 2 hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
Getting a snack, because it's the movies, treat yourself. Come on now.
See, and I never get anything.
I am a creature of habit. I must have my popped corn and poppity pop of the drink sort.
Yeah.
And have to pee 30 minutes before the movie ends. But all told, that's at least $25.
Yeah.
Whereas for the same amount of money, I can stream all the movies I want and pop my own popcorn at home and have change left over.
And you don't have to deal with the people.
Well, see, that's the thing, is going to a theater and having a good audience around you really is a unique experience. One of the primary examples that pops up in my mind is when they re-released the original trilogy of Star Wars in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
The very opening of A New Hope, as the blockade runner goes by and then the Star Destroyer comes in overhead. I've watched this movie countless times at home. I know it's going to happen. But to be in a theater and to feel the rumble of the speakers of that, as that Star Destroyer just rumbles overhead and fills your view because the screen is enormous, that is an experience you just can't get at home.
Right.
Unless you've got one of those wall-sized TVs and a surround sound system, but I'm not made of money, so nah. Seeing Endgame in the theater, and when the glorious Thundercap moment happened, and the audience is losing their mind,
right?
That was a ton of fun that you just wouldn't get sitting at home. Some movies, I feel like I don't feel like the big screen really
doesn't really add much to it. Yeah.
Like many Returns of the Day, I don't think is really going to matter what screen you're watching it on. If you're invested in it, you're invested in it. But some films do take advantage of the space and the spectacle, and that I would miss should the theaters kind of peter out. But I don't know, in terms of money spent in entertainment, God, I definitely see why streaming would have the broader appeal.
Yeah. And with the talk of movie theaters opening up soon, there's been many ideas, suggestions, things put out there that I think would be would really detract from a lot of things. I do like the idea of having the seats blocked off so you can't have someone sitting immediately right next to you. That sounds good to me. But I've heard some... one of the ideas I saw was putting plexiglass between each person at each seat. And it's like, no, that's going to be, first of all, way too distracting. It's going to be like maybe kind of claustrophobic. It's just going to be, and you're going to get, it's going to ruin the sound. The sound will be horrible. And so I'm not sure that would go over well. And doing like a TSA style security checks, that's also going to, like, that would kill movie theaters outright, I think, if they tried to do something like that. I don't know. It just seems like like movie theaters are already kind of, they have been not doing so great, and now they're just completely going to be doing even worse now with this. Even after things start to open back up, it's going to be a long time, I think, before a lot of people feel comfortable going to something like a movie. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the thing here is like, yeah, these places can open back up and they can start to serve customers again, but not just movie theaters. I mean, overall everything. But how many people are going to be comfortable doing that, and how long can a business sustain itself running at 25 or 50% capacity? It just, I don't know. It seems weird. It's almost like you would spend more money to be open at a lower capacity than just staying closed. It doesn't make sense. So,
and that's major theaters. I shudder to think what's happening to small stage theater productions.
Oh yeah,
because, and I'm not talking Broadway and all that, because they're large enough that
they'll be fine.
They have a certain degree of prestige that if they do have to implement certain measures for crowd safety, people will endure it. People will go to great lengths to get what they want. We're kind of silly that way as a species, but
right.
Small theater, I'm thinking, my father's an actor in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're ever there, go see him. He's good. But they're completely shut down, and they've never really had enormous crowds because you don't really think of the Piedmont, North Carolina as a theatrical mecca. So what are they going to do when your small audiences are further reduced?
Yeah. Local theater houses will definitely be hurting. Same with like concert halls and stuff like that. Smaller concert halls for sure.
Now, one of the things theaters could do, and the one near us will have, operas and orchestral performances and such portrayed on the big screen, which I think is neat because you can't always get to these locations or these events.
Right.
So, excuse me. So, if they are to diversify further like that, perhaps they can survive. I mean, it doesn't solve the solution of having to account for crowd health, but if you're doing more than just whatever 5 films Hollywood has produced for this season, maybe they can get a few more people out there.
Right. And that's sort of the other thing now, too. You mentioned production. Production is going to be massively delayed for like everything. We've already seen games getting pushed back. Movies obviously they've been trying to shuffle around, reschedule things, and to be honest, I really don't foresee things going back to normal, or at least some semblance of normal in this aspect, for at least the rest of the year. I've kind of, at this point in my head, kind of written off 2020. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think a lot of there's a lot of talk about like TV productions and movies and stuff going back into production soonish, and it's like, I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot of because as this pandemic spreads, we're going to see a lot of peaks and valleys in what we're going through right now. So, I mean, you'll see things go down and then they'll shoot back up, and it's just going to be we're kind of chasing, we're going to end up chasing the pandemic and be like, well, we got to shut down again. So now it's like all of a sudden, well, you're in the middle of production and then you got to shut down again. And it's like, well, you just wasted a whole bunch of money trying to get everything back up and running, and now you got to shut down again. And then come the next time they open, you got to do it again. I think it's going to be really tough for TV and movie productions, especially to get back going again. Games, we've already seen delays and stuff like that, so it just kind of depends. But I guess developing a video game is a little bit easier to do remotely than making a movie. But at the same time, it's still not easy. So
that would also depend if the game developers, if the staff have work-related machines at home and access to the central server. If that's all super secure, there's probably not a whole lot they can do from home.
Right. And if they have decent internet at home too. If they're moving files around that are gigs in size, gigabytes in size, it's going to be a long wait if they're not on a local server. So
the kind of the crux of this talk of, are things going to move to digital, or will things go back to traditional delivery methods, is just what the infrastructure supports. I mean, we talk about streaming things no problem because we live in major urban centers where high-speed internet is ubiquitous. It's like your plumbing and your electricity. You don't think about it; it's just there. But in regions that are less built up, that are kind of off the grid,
right,
where you have satellite internet still, for heaven's sake, streaming is not really going to be the option. Now, a lot of these areas, they may not necessarily have a lot of options in general, but they would rely more on, satellite TV or your local movie theater to get the entertainment that they need. And you need entertainment. You can't just work, come home, go to bed, and there are only so many books you can read in a day. So I think what will be a major factor is just how much those regions affect the consumption. Maybe we'll see kind of a divide where less internet savvy regions support enough of the traditional methods that it can survive, or because the traditional methods are dying out because of things right now, we'll see a major push for everyone to be brought online.
Yeah, remote rural regions, as far as their internet access, they've been spotty for decades. And the idea has been to support these companies that are providing internet access to build out their infrastructure to support these rural areas. But, slightly political thing here, but rather than doing that, they've been, pocketing the cash and not doing it, and nobody's been holding them accountable, so it doesn't matter. It's
we're tiptoeing on the edge of what should be done for people in these regions.
Right.
It's far more than internet, but
sure.
Easy listening show.
Yeah.
Lower the blood
I know. It's just one of those things. That's just one of those things that's like really, really irritated me for a long time. So, but yeah, there's definitely something to be said there. I know that in a lot of rural towns and smaller towns that movie rental shops are still pretty common. Not large chains, just local mom and pop joints. So that is one alternative, provided they can either stay open or open back up soon if they're not already open. I know some of these rural areas have been able to kind of weather things and handle things throughout what's been going on. So, I mean, there's a lot less risk in a smaller population dense area. So I think we'll probably be seeing those places might be okay in terms of they'll still be able to rent movies and stuff from these local shops at least. So there's that. And there is some movement to get internet into more rural areas now, at least. So hopefully that keeps expanding, and then we'll see what happens from there.
I think overall, it's way too early to make any kind of solid predictions because
exactly
the situation is, I don't want to say unprecedented,
pretty close to it.
I feel like we are aware of it and approaching it in an unprecedented way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a degree of global communication that we have not been able to utilize before.
Right.
Which I think will affect things. But overall, I think what we are talking about right now, the concerns about consumable media and what form they will take in the near future, is all going to hinge on the more essential aspects of life. How is the most basic infrastructure of society going to hold up in the next year or two? Because if we can find a way to ensure basic stability and income for everyone, if everyone can be fed and can get their groceries fairly regularly and safely, then we'll see a more clear pattern of just how we're able to consume our media. If things are not dealt with appropriately and we have to struggle to maintain our supply lines and just our day-to-days, let us not forget the toilet paper panic of the early 20s, which is to just say April. Then where we get our comics and how we watch our movies is going to be a distant concern.
Sure.
So, and I feel like that should be obvious. If the most basic needs are not met, why worry about anything else?
Exactly.
But again, to tiptoe on the line, we have examples of folks who can't really see the forest for the trees. So, I don't know. I am a simple man of simple means. I'm just going to try to keep my head down and see where this goes.
We know that things will change. They already have. They've already started to, and I think certain trends will likely continue after we return to some sense of normalcy. But I think the normalcy that we'll experience will be a different one than we had before. So it's going to be interesting going forward to see how things change, not just entertainment-wise and in terms of pop culture, but I think just overall. We also didn't talk about things like conventions.
Conventions, once the cure is found, and I'm not, cure is the wrong word. Once a vaccine is found, and I'm confident there will be one.
Oh yeah.
The fervor at which the global community is working to find a solution is wondrous, for lack of any other word. And given just how starkly COVID-19 has affected everyone, not just a region, not just a country, but the planet in total.
Uh-huh.
This thing will see distribution, and even if it becomes something like a flu shot where you need it regularly to make sure things are okay, that will come out, and COVID-19 will go from a world-stopping issue to a continued annoyance. That I'm fairly confident of.
Yeah.
So once we have
like
that corralled, I can see conventions and large sporting events and such coming back into the swing of things. Something I read a few months ago, and I may have the details wrong, so forgive me, but I believe what it boiled down to was that a vaccine can be developed in the absolute best case scenario in about 14 months. That's if everything kind of comes together, the human trials go well, and you skip straight to human trials.
Yeah, I've been seeing 12 to 18 months is kind of what I've seen and heard. Sometimes up to 24, but we'll see. With the way things are going, it could take that long, or it could be soon.
It just depends on how tricky this thing is and how quickly they can figure it out. But so we'll say, let's give it kind of the median range, and the vaccine comes out, say, June 2021. I can see us getting back into the regular con circuit by 2022.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only will it be reasonably safe to do so again, but people are going to want it. They're going to hunger for that interaction and just for the freedom of being able to go out and not have to worry about it. Like right now, I limit myself to groceries once a week. I have to wear gloves and a mask, and I have to basically detox when I get back and go straight to the shower and immediately wash my clothes. Mm-hmm. Because this is a scary thing, and my family is in a bad position with said scary thing. Mm-hmm. We have to be extra cautious. So just to be in a position where we can not do that will be glorious. I can't believe I'm looking forward to going to grocery shopping as a highlight. Just go for a walk. That will be nice. And there's some beautiful simplicity in that. But
yeah,
I think people are really going to want to do that. So once we're out there, I can see conventions and stuff bouncing back really easily. It's going to be a kind of rough period in between now and then, but I see it as on the near horizon, not a big shrug like a lot of the other things we've talked about.
Right, and I don't disagree. The only thing I wonder is if some of these smaller conventions can sort of weather this storm and hold out long enough as far as like being able to wait before they run out of money, essentially. So, I don't know how all of those organizations are run, and I don't have any idea how much money they actually make, but if they're not able to make money, then that seems like it's going to be a problem going forward for a lot of conventions that don't necessarily have the revenue of larger ones like San Diego or New York, or any of the other bigger ones like that. So it'll be interesting, though.
Maybe we'll see something nice like the big shows get broken up a little bit and the smaller shows endure. Like, they don't have the revenue coming in, but being smaller shows, they may not require as much to get back up and running.
Right, that's true.
Whereas something like San Diego or New York Comic-Con are just staggeringly huge. So maybe they will have smaller affairs, which would be nice in general, because they would be more accessible and more survivable.
Yeah. I think we can speak from experience, having both been to San Diego especially. San Diego is just so freaking busy.
I mean, I've loved it the few times I've gone, but the sheer volume of people.
It's exhausting. Yes. I'm glad we had the same word there.
I remember coming out of the show once, and it was a literal sea of people, like shoulder to shoulder, 5 or 4 people deep, filling the road, just exiting the building. And this was at end of the day. It's like, there are lots of people here. And then we walked by an outdoor cafe, and there were like 5 luchadors in business suits who all looked over and went, "Hoi!" and saluted us with their drinks. And it's like, I love this show. Like, the entire town becomes a block party. It's fun. And I look forward to doing something like that again.
Oh, it's like when we went by the Capcom booth that one year, and it was freaking shoulder to shoulder for, I think there was a tournament going on. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. It's like, this is definitely not fly during pandemic times. But it was funny.
I do remember they were promoting Asura's Wrath by putting people in like a glorified phone booth and having them scream. So if everyone just gets locked in a phone booth and screams, we can do the show. Yeah, that's no problem.
Sure. Yeah. I think a lot of things will also be like switching to online streaming. I've seen a lot of, I follow a lot of musicians and stuff, and they're doing concerts and stuff for free on Twitch and things like that. So that's pretty cool.
The Sonic fan get together, Sonic Revolution, I know, is trying to put together an online version of the show. And as I might be stealing their thunder a little bit, but I am planning on digitally attending. So hopefully that goes through.
Excellent.
So there are ways. It's not quite the same, but you do what you can. You do what you have to.
Yeah. There's also Bonus Stage is doing a Twitch stream featuring some video game music arrangers that'll be happening on actually it's happening right now as we're recording. Go figure. But things like that will continue on, and a lot of people are like organizing events and stuff online. So I think that's pretty cool, and I hope that keeps up.
Oh, duh. Just the other day, my youngest brother graduated, and since obviously we could not go to the university, they had a pre-recorded presentation on YouTube, and Lee and I hopped on Skype to be with the family as they did the presentation. So It wasn't the same, clearly, but we were able to at least be there to a degree.
Sure. And there's definitely a lot of that going on now, which is, at least we're able to still have some kind of interaction with our families and with friends outside of our immediate sphere in terms of, our domicile, where we live. But, I mean, it isn't the same. It isn't quite the same, but, it's still at least, we can have some fun. We can check in on each other, make sure everything's going okay, and all that stuff. So it's cool. It's cool.
I mean, think how it would have been 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, man.
Not everyone had anything better than 56K dial-up.
Yeah. We'd been using the landline a lot. We've been using the phone a lot. That's pretty much it.
Welcome to the BumbleKast. Please read Telnet as fast as possible.
Welcome to the BumbleKast. It sounds like 32 kilobits audio, and it's complete garbage. Don't listen to it. Yeah, it sounds like it's coming through a phone.
To your ear, you can hear the ocean.
Sounds like it's coming through a telephone, and not a good telephone, a really bad, crappy one. It's like
it could be worse.
Yeah, it's like the early episodes of NGI just sounded like hot garbage because I couldn't stream anything higher than like 32 kilobits a second. It was like, oh man, it's bad. It's real bad, but it's funny. Going back to it now and listening, it's like, man, this is quaint. And I did this for like 80 episodes. Man, I was apparently dedicated, and so were the people who listened to it. Jeez, what's wrong with you? Anyway,
and it was new. It was great at the time.
Sure. Now everybody's streaming, so the novelty is worn off.
You have to hook people with novelties like Q&A sessions.
Indeed. Holy crap.
How about we go on to our novel Q&A session, Kyle?
Yes. It's better than talking about novel anything else.
Especially novel coronaviruses.
Oh, that's what I was referring to.
I know.
Okay, good. All right. So we are, in fact, going to move along into the Q&A. If you want to ask us questions, you can email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com. Hit us up on Twitter at BumbleKast. Over at Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. Down in the YouTube comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, or via Patreon comments or messages, or in the Q&A channel on our Discord. Keep in mind, we do have some basic ground rules here. If the question's been answered within the last few episodes, is over on the FAQ over at bumbleking.com, or is about past Sonic plans that will be covered in Lost Hedgehog Tales, we probably won't answer it. If your question hasn't been answered in a while, check those places and see if it's already been answered, or if we can't answer it. Let's go ahead and get into the priority Q&A. Are you ready, Ian?
I am ready.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the priority Q&A. First one comes to us courtesy of Diane W. During Sonic Twitter Takeover 4, Sonic, Eggman, Shadow, and Tails answered a question on what their favorite anime is. Eggman says he likes Tokyo Ghoul, Sonic likes Sonic X, Tails likes My Hero Academia, and Shadow likes what he claims to be the greatest anime of all time, Kill la Kill. What do you think the other Sonic character's favorite anime would be? For example, would Sally's favorite anime be Revolutionary Girl Yutina? Would SBO's be Naruto? And would Amy watch a lot of magical girl anime?
See, I am not as well versed in anime as many others, so I'm sure everyone would have a strong opinion on these and point out why mine is wrong.
I'm not either. So
I would find it really funny if Amy was into Magical Madoka because of the magical girls and the themes of obsession. I think it'd be funny if Cream was really into Neon Genesis Evangelion just because I'm a sick individual.
That's like Isabel being a fan of Doom.
Yeah.
Just about.
I can see Omega watching all of Gurren Lagann going, I could do that.
The only thing I can think of is maybe Knuckles likes Dragon Ball Z.
That or One Punch Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of those.
See Saitama and feels like they have a deep connection.
That's true. That's a good point.
If he had dreadlocks, he'd be just like me.
Yeah.
Please, no. Stop.
Oh, man. Who would be into JoJo?
Oh, Lord.
I don't know.
See, do I go for the joke answer, or do I try to actually find someone who would...
Why not both?
Fit?
Why not both?
Well, big, of course, for
okay.
The joke answer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Froggy says, rip it, and it gets translated. Are you approaching me? It's the only way I can get close enough to fish you.
Oh, boy. Although, yeah, I have no other ones. No other suggestions, I don't think. I see a suggestion. It says Vector for JoJo.
Maybe. What's the name of the one? Oh, shoot. It's the detective who gets trapped in the body of a small child. Maybe Detective Conan, just for the detective angle.
Detective Conan? Sounds like a spin-off of Conan O'Brien.
Or maybe Lupin the Third, just so he can rage at Lupin getting away. Why is the detective doing more?
Yeah.
Tell you what, if I was in there, Lupin wouldn't get more than 3 feet. Guarantee it.
I like your Vector voice. It's pretty good. All right, let's move on to the next one from Crooker. I think the most important question is by what convoluted method would Styx somehow survive the Zombot Apocalypse completely unscathed?
The funny thing is it wouldn't be convoluted at all because she is such a paranoid individual. She would be a prepper.
Well,
she saw this coming a mile away. She totally saw it coming.
Obviously.
All those other things she predicted coming? No. They were just, crazy ideas she was throwing out there to throw the man off her trail. The minute she gets a whiff of the Zombot Apocalypse, she's in her bunker fine. Alternatively, she's out in the wild and completely misses it. Like the entire world falls apart, and she's preparing for some other doomsday scenario that never comes to pass. She comes wandering out of the woods, and it's like, hey guys, what happened? How did you survive the Zombot Apocalypse? The what now?
That's the best answer right there. She just totally misses it. She's like, oh man, I missed it. I missed the apocalypse. Oh.
Everybody was turning into robots just by touching one another. I told you this would happen and I missed it. Well, now that you're all better, I told you so.
Yes. Yep. She tried. And our last priority question this week comes from Andrew D. Now that Evan Stanley will be contributing to writing duties, what does this mean for you as the writer? Are there plans for you to return? Is the writing a collaborative effort?
It was... Okay, so it's kind of a muddy timeline, in part because I am an adult-minded individual. But Bad Guys was in the very, very early stages, I think, when David said Evan was going to become the lead writer for the next year. So that much was already kind of in place. But otherwise, the rest of 2020 was wide open. So I made a point of saying to Evan, it's your show now. I didn't have anything set up immediately after the Zombot arc because we hadn't gotten that far yet. And I didn't want her to have to be beholden to any half-baked ideas I had. I told her, you're a lead writer now. Go nuts. It's your book now. Which is really exciting for me because now I can, whenever I do something, I get to build off of somebody else. I've been directing the book for so long. It's kind of a new experience to not know where things would necessarily be going, which is, it's fun. You have no idea how fun that is. So, Evan has a lot of cool stuff planned through 2020 into 2021. And then as we were putting together plans for 2021, again, Evan takes the lead on the main story. And we talk back and forth on, what ideas we wanted to do and how those might fit together. And if I had this idea here, would it work with her plans there? Or if I shuffled it over here, would that work for her plans? And if I did this storyline over here and she did that storyline over there, where would they meet in the middle? And it was definitely a collaborative effort. But since Evan is currently the lead writer, in my mind, I'm following her act. She's building off what I had before, and now for me, I feel like I'm building off of what she's doing now. And she's been super cool and chill to work with, so our plans for 2021 came together really, really easily. They might be shuffled around a little bit because, pandemic, but overall, it's been really easy to follow her lead and plan out some fun stuff. And we'll see if Sega approves any of it.
Well, that's always the key, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, oh man, we've got this great roadmap for 2021. Oh yeah, the licensor has to let us do it. It's not just our book.
Man. That's why people should be going to read Drogoon. Go read Drogoon. That's all Ian's. Yeah. Ian and Adam. That's all his. You don't have any pesky licensors or anything like that to worry about. So go read that. And read Sonic. I mean, don't stop reading Sonic, but, read them both.
Read everything.
Sure, if you can. Anyway, let's move on to the standard Q&A. This one comes to us courtesy of Cece. Hi, longtime fan here, and I heard about the ARMS comic again since it's still being worked on, and I wanted to ask how was the process for creating it? Did Nintendo give you some written beat of a story as the game does allude to it, or did you take a few bits known and roll it your own way? Is any of the extended cast involved? Dr. Coyle, Biff, etc.? I'd assume you've already done your share of the work for it, and it's a matter of waiting for Dark Horse staff to handle the rest. And most importantly, how much fun did you have with writing it, and how did you get involved with it?
Okay, let's take this a little out of order.
Okay.
I got involved because Dark Horse approached me and said, hey, you're kind of known for doing comic books and video games. We're doing a thing with ARMS. You want in? And I said, yes, thank you. Nintendo sent a few lore documents, background information on the world, on the characters, why people have the stretchy arms that they do, what the motivations for some of these characters are. And I'm not sure how much of that I can talk about right now, because I'm not 100% sure how much has been, put out there over time and how much is still to be revealed in the Dark Horse project. But at the time, it was all new to me. So I think hardcore ARMS fans will get some really cool new insight into the world whenever it comes out. For the approach, I wanted it to be a kind of celebration of the game itself. There is a singular through line. There is a central character, if you will. But I wanted to touch upon as many other characters as I could within reason. And, build the whole thing around what ARMS is, and that is a fighting tournament. And weave in those lore elements where I could, that it just didn't feel like, okay, here's a fight scene, now here's a lore dump. Here's a fight scene, add a lore dump. I really wanted to make it all part of one narrative, and to make the fights interesting to read, since reading an arms fight is going to be vastly different than actually having an arms fight. That's the essence of the media. But I'm hoping that the way I choreographed it in the script and the way the artist will handle it will give you that same visceral feeling. Nintendo was super, super cool to work with on the project. They didn't offer any guidance outside of the lore material. Just here is the stuff. Run with it. And there was this one character that I created by virtue of the lore. And I'm pretty sure, I can't be 100% certain, because they may have had this design somewhere in their file folder. But I saw a piece of concept art that came back, and it looked pretty dang close to what I had come up with in the script. Like, the script said, here is this character who looks like this, unless Nintendo has, a design already on file, in which case go with that. And the artwork that came in was pretty darn close to what I had scripted. So I may have kind of created an official ARMS character indirectly, which is super freaking cool. That's true.
That is awesome.
And I really, really wanted to see the light of day so I can point at and go, look at it. I didn't have too many new players on the field. Anybody who's new is more to facilitate the main cast and move things forward. But the ARMS cast is already so large that there wasn't really a lot of need for additional characters.
Right.
More to prop up the principal ones for the main narrative. And see, there's a lot of detail I'd like to go into to talk about how I aged certain things and how I paced certain things and why I chose what goes where. But that gets into really spoilery territory, and I really shouldn't say any of that. So keep your eye on Dark Horse's social media and webpage for any news. I don't know what it was exactly that was slowing production, but with things as they are, production is not moving forward nearly as fast as I would want, but that's for everybody. So I don't know. Just keep pinging them and say, hey, we want an ARMS book. Gimme. And hopefully it'll come out within the near future.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. I still need to actually play ARMS outside of just the demo. But that game's price is resilient. Very resilient.
Yeah. Nintendo does not like letting those prices drop.
Oh, no. I mean, even for other games, they've let prices drop. But ARMS is I don't know. It's hard and fast at 60, and used copies are 55. And it's what the heck? Come on. It's weird. I don't know what it is with ARMS specifically that is so resilient in price. But
maybe it'll drop when the sequel gets announced with Smash Brothers.
Hopefully.
That's not insider info from me, by the way. It's just kind of a foregone conclusion. If they're adding a ARMS character to the DLC roster, it's probably because the sequel's coming.
Maybe. We'll see. Next question comes from Green Garfield, which is an interesting color for Garfield, I must say.
Unless he's a Beast Boy.
Sure. I was wondering what went into the decision to have Rotor break his back and retire as a freedom fighter in issue 275. Rotor is my favorite freedom fighter, and at the time I was upset that he was sidelined. Was it a Sega mandate at the time to remove him, or by choice?
It was by choice, in part because Rotor is a tricky guy to place in the team. In part because, going off of the SatAM Bible, he is supposed to be Sonic's best friend and a inventor. So he's Tails. Yeah. That's pretty much the long and short of it. He was Tails before there was Tails. You can argue the timeline. I'm not. You get what I'm going for here. when they developed SatAM and Rotor, it was before they even knew Tails was a thing. It was before Tails really came into his own. Rotor and Tails were together, and because Tails is the game character and has to take precedence, Rotor kind of lost his reason for being in the narrative. And because he was kind of... his characterization has waffled over the years, but in general, because he's so mild-mannered, it's easy for him to kind of get overshadowed by so many others. When you have big personalities like Sally and Bunny and Antoine, his just being nice kind of falls by the wayside. So for 275, we wanted there to be some serious consequences of Dr. Eggman's attack, and if any of the freedom fighters were going to be taken out of the fight with minimal immediate impact on the team structure, unfortunately it was going to be Rotor. But because Rotor is pretty much the most lovable of them, Sally fans, calm down, it also painted a target on his back, no pun intended, because you don't want Rotor to get hurt. Everybody loves Rotor. And it was part of the long-term plans for him to get involved with the Council of Acorns so that he would still be an active member of the story. We didn't want to write him out entirely because that would just be rude. And Rotor has been unceremoniously written out of the book in the past. It was, if Rotor is injured here, what does it mean for his character? What does it mean for the team? And what do we do for him in the long term? So there was a plan beyond, oh, let's just take Rotor off the active roster. It was to have consequences for the team, make Eggman the bad guy, make it very clear, and to steer Rotor in a new direction that was not, that got him out from under Tails' shadow. And we went in that direction for a bit, and Rotor fans were not happy with it because they want Rotor to do. They don't want him to be sidelined. Doesn't matter what his character growth was or what he was doing on other avenues. They wanted him to be an active member of the team. So that's where we started to steer back into the whole Iron Rotor, nanite suit sort of thing, and the team freedom and team fighters, and got him back on the front lines, and folks seemed to like that well enough.
And our last question comes to us courtesy of Toby B. Amy proclaims, "Oh my god, in Sonic Heroes, what animals do you think Sonic's world's god would be?"
Oh, Toby, why do you do this to me? Well, if we are taking God in the terms of the Abrahamic, omnipotent, omnipresent deity, one cannot be limited by form if you are all-powerful and all-existing. Therefore, God would be all animals at all times.
It's a cop-out answer right there.
It's theological.
Okay. I figured it would be a hedgehog, considering the hedgehogs seem to be the most powerful and like consistently seem to be more favored over anyone else. I don't know. It just seems that way. They're the only ones that can go super. So, and other things like that. So I don't know though.
Oh, there's so many things I could say, and every single one of them would piss somebody off. So I'm just going to leave it with my answer.
Okay. All right. Fine. Be like that. All right. That's it for the Q&A this week on the BumbleKast. And that's it for the BumbleKast. Before we head out, let's give a big shout out and thank you to the lovely folks who support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BumbleKast. Big thank you to Daniel H., Alex P., Connell T., Salute Your Cat, Crooker, Blue Title Gamer, Koopaling Crew, Andrew D., Chris A., John B., Diane W., James K., Jennifer R., Revan the Light, Lisa M., Preston M., Frederick, Digama F. Wow, Final Neil, Justin S., Papa Tree Populus, Silly String, Tucaro, Scruffy Matt, Lee H.K., Overthinking Films, Don B., John M., Chauvel, Mike B., Duiz Dizdin, Samuel P., Justin G., Sin Fritz, Dave M., and Sam Cybercat. Thank you, everybody. for your support and your continued support. It's very much appreciated, especially with everything going on right now. So thanks for sticking around and sticking with us. And thank you for listening. If you listen to this show and if you made it this far into the show, thank you.
Yes, thank you all so very, very much. And if you're listening on YouTube, if you do us a favor, and I hate to say this, ring the bell, hit the subscribe button, upvote, all that happy malarkey. And just make the algorithm work for us. You don't even have to pay attention to it. Please, I hate to ask for it, but it's how this system works. And once you're done, you can find Kyle at...
You can find me on Twitter at KyleJCRB. You can also head on over to kngi.org, where that's the home of my other show, Nitro Game Injection, which you can find streaming live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also find episodes of the BumbleKast in MP3 downloadable format over there, and you can find all the feed reader links and everything else that you have access to regarding the BumbleKast over there to listen to it however you please. It's all there. So, what about you, Ian?
You can follow me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. You can find my body of work and my release schedule, which is woefully out of date because of that stupid COVID, over at BumbleKing.com. Also, follow my original webcomic series with Sonic veteran Adam Bryce Thomas at Drogoon.com. That's DROGUNE.com. We're celebrating 6 months of updates.
Woo!
And to celebrate, we have the fan art section live on the main website. And if you read webcomics via the website Webtoon, that's WEBTOON.com, we're also publishing there as well. So if you don't want to read off of the main site, you can subscribe on Webtoon. Give us an upvote, give us a favorite, give us a small nod, perhaps a fond wave. We won't be able to see it, but it would still be appreciated.
Maybe a nice tip of the hat, if you wear a hat. You can follow the show on Twitter at BumbleKast. You can also email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com. And you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and of course over on the KNGI website. It's all there, and you can find all the links for subscribing on those various services as well.
You can further support the show by heading over to the Bumble store. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble store, where we have a number of delightful images that you can plaster on a variety of products, and you can wear them, drink from them, stack them on top of each other, pile them in a corner, build a small shrine, burn them in effigy. I don't care. Just buy something.
Build a nice fort in the corner and hide behind it. Maybe it will protect you from the pandemic. Who knows? Might as well try it. What do you got to lose? Don't forget, you can also head on over to our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/BumbleKastGaming, where you can find our live streams that happen on Twitch. They happen on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And I've also pretty much officially also scheduled Wednesday nights and Thursday nights starting at 11:59 p.m. for both of those. So basically midnight Thursday and midnight Saturday, but I still say Wednesday and Friday because technically for me, they start on Wednesday and Friday. So it's less confusing for me, but anyway.
Aren't time zones fun?
No, they're not. So over there, you'll find those. I've been streaming. I just started streaming Mega Man 11 as chosen by a poll that I ran on Twitter. The folks over there voted for a Mega Man 11 stream, so I'm streaming that. And also on the off days, I've been streaming, on the off days being Friday, I was streaming Blaster Master right now, so be sure to check that out.
That's going to wrap us up for this episode of the BumbleKast. Thank you so much for listening. Be safe, be well, take care of each other, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for a brand new episode of the BumbleKast.
See you later. Boing. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. Don't okay. Speak, because I know what you're saying. Don't tell me, because it hurts. Don't speak.
Don't speak, because you'll pass out stupid.
Don't Ian, don't. You're making it even worse. Don't sing.
Why do you try to sing?
Don't sing. You're going to kill yourself. When you run out of air, please stop. Oh, no. Oh, jeez. I'm just singing 90s No Doubt songs now all of a sudden. Ah!
I'm only happy when I wheeze.
That's garbage. That's not No Doubt.
I'm only happy when I'm out of air. I'm gonna be splayed out over there. I'm only happy when I wheeze.
I miss some 90s bands. Garbage is one of them.